And Sherry in Gerald, Missouri. You are on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Yes, Congressman. I wanted to ask a question about Steve Bannon. Why is he allowed to attack and go after political figures blatantly when if I click on the wrong site, the FBI wants to know my name?
Well, Sherry, I mean, it is First Amendment rights, right? So he's just exploring his from a very wealthy platform, being Breitbart News and being his new elevated position from being in the White House and from the Mercer funding and other funding sources that he has. So unfortunately, he's very effective in doing it, and he's really relishing in this attention. So when he says that you're either going to have to resign or you're going to lose, he takes credit for people like Jeff Flake, who probably had very little to do with Steve Bannon, had a lot more to do with how Donald Trump is running things about why he's leaving. So, he's just getting a lot of attention right now. The thing is, this is a devolution of the Republican Party. It's not that there's a split or anything. This is just, if this is the route they're going to take, this will lead to massive losses, and then maybe that remakes up their party. But we have to be there to take advantage of what they're doing right now so that we can save the country. And I think, again, everyone has First Amendment rights, but we have to be ready to be as quick to organize people to be able to take advantage of the changes that are happening.
Alex in Edison, New Jersey. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Hello, Tom. Hello, Congressman Pocan. My question is a rather boring one, but I think it's important as a matter of public safety. The ATF has many legislative technical restrictions for, I think, no good reason. Let me give you two. They cannot keep an electronic database of gun sales, and they cannot have optical character recognition software and such so for them to track an illegal purchase is very, very labor intensive. There's other restrictions. My question is this: what can be done to remove these restrictions and thereby let them use data analysis to track suspicious gun sales and, more importantly, keep us safe? Thank you.
Yeah, Alex, so, let me answer it a little bit higher of a 30,000-foot level. I mean, there's other common sense things we're trying to do that have 80% plus public support around background checks, around, people who buy them on Craigslist or at a flea market or a gun show, but not buying it directly from a dealer. A lot of other provisions that we've put out there. The bottom line is the NRA is an extremely powerful lobby of gun makers who fund the NRA, who claim it's really gun owners, but we know where the funding comes from. And they've been very effective in keeping Congress from doing anything, including some people in the Democratic Party have been more reluctant in this area to move forward. So while there are certainly, as you said, some changes that could happen that may sound relatively easy, we also are putting out ideas that have 80% public support, and yet we still can't get them through because the NRA is such a powerful lobby. At some point, we just have to make it that, the NRA is a bad thing if you have their support, because it's not about gun ownership, protection with a handgun, or the right to own a rifle for hunting. It's about protecting the gun manufacturers who are never going to give an inch because it's about their profits. And once everyone understands that, then maybe we can be in a position to change some of these laws for more common sense solutions.
Paolo in Bristol, UK, in the United Kingdom. Hey, Paolo, you are on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Hi there. Thanks for taking my call. I'd just like to find out, because it seems like Jeff flake of Arizona seem to be saying that he's principled, but how do we approach Republicans who try to say that they're anti-Trump yet vote for his agenda almost 100% of the time? What do we have to say to that?
Yeah.
Is it unfair to characterize Jeff Flake as a hypocrite?
And in fact,
what you do
Congressman,
is you reach out to these people and say, whether they're allowing Trump to do what he's doing or they're still voting for an agenda that essentially represents what Donald Trump wants, they can either change their ways or you can change the faces of the people who represent you in Congress or, for that matter, any legislative body. So, we just have to be really serious about it. We got to take elections as seriously as they do. We need to figure out how to fight all these efforts that try to make it harder for people to vote. And we have to make it that, if you don't go vote and you had the ability to, that is something that's a serious consequence, right? I mean, people realize that they're fighting for themselves if they go out and vote. Just in the United States right now with this tax legislation, it very likely, in order to pay for that, they may not say it up front, but down the road, it's going to be going after Social Security and Medicare, two of the most popular programs we have that support the middle class and those aspiring to be in the middle class more than anything. And if that happens, that would be devastating to us. So we just got to take it to them. If you won't change your ways, if you're not going to say anything about the president, you're going to vote for that agenda, then fine, we're going to change it. You can have a different occupation. We have to be dead serious about that.
Teresa in Bellevue, Washington. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Hi, Congressman Pocan. Hey, I have it's more of a request for you. I heard on the TV last night one of a Republican congressman talking about the estate tax and using that old line that it's already been taxed, so it shouldn't be taxed again. And I can't believe that talking point is still out there, and I'm just going to encourage the Progressive Caucus to correct that. It has not been taxed by the person receiving it. In fact, the person receiving it hasn't even worked for it, let alone not pay taxes on it.
Right. Teresa, excellent point. And, it's almost as if you've been hanging out with our exec committee this week, because one of the things that we made a decision to do, and hopefully by the end of the week we'll start doing this, is we're putting together on certain specific provisions we think they're going to be part of their tax plan. We're going to put videos together to explain what they are in very common terms, because the estate tax also, people think, oh, it's a death tax, right, because Republicans have given it that name. It's only a tax when you have $5.49 million with an individual that it even takes place. It's about 2 out of every 1,000 people in a year are actually paying that. So when you look at it that way, suddenly you realize this is a tax cut just for the wealthiest. We need to get that information out there much better, and that's why I've been really passionate about this, because this is not easy stuff, but it has great ramifications in everything that we care about, like Social Security, health care, and Medicare, because it's going to have to be paid for. So we are in the process of doing just that. We're going to take some of these major things like pass-through income, which is not super easy unless we can make it more understandable, the estate tax, and some of the other tax provisions so that people understand how they're getting essentially screwed, so that the rich get a big tax break and that the middle class is going to wind up paying for it.
Philip in Warner Robins, Georgia. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Hi, Congressman. I want to ask you a serious question about Trump and his mental stability. I think he's proven that he is mentally unstable, and that represents an existential threat to the world because he is in charge of the second largest nuclear arsenal in the world. Why aren't the Democrats working to remove him under the 25th Amendment?
So, Philip, a lot of folks are talking about 25th Amendment. There are specific provisions to try to make it better. Here's the problem with the 25th Amendment as a practical solution. The people who make that decision around the 25th Amendment are the cabinet that's appointed by the president.
And the vice
president. That already
president.
Is a significant hurdle. Second, if the president really wanted to, he can fire the people then that have to make this decision. So Earl Blumenauer, for example, is floating around a proposal to have a backup panel of former presidents and vice presidents. But bottom line is none of these methods are especially easy for a reason. So whether it be impeachment, where we need Republican votes, or the 25th Amendment, where you're going to need the president's own cabinet to make this decision, they're high hurdles, even though I think you and I may definitely sense mental instability in many of the ways how he acts and how he handles things. So we have to keep pressing the case to get this done. So in the meantime, let's fight the individual issues. Let's make sure we take advantage of every election that comes up to make sure that more people who think like us are elected. But, these are much tougher for a reason to get done, and we are talking about it. It's just not always picked up by the corporate media, but I have heard multiple members bring this up on the floor, and yet you don't see the general attention on it.
Yeah. We just have a minute until the break, not enough time to get another caller in here, but how do you see this playing out?
I'll tell you what we need, again, is the Republicans probably won't do it until they know they're in such trouble electorally that they'll then be willing to throw him under the proverbial bus, and instead, start glorifying Mike Pence. but they know their fortune is attached to the president, so they're willing to go along with everything that he does that's stupid, everything he does that's wrong-headed, everything he does that's irrational. And for someone like Paul Ryan, he's from my neighboring district. I know Paul Ryan. I'm even more disappointed because he knows better. And for him to allow things like that, and for Republican elected officials to allow it to happen, it makes them complicit with that activity. And I think that is what's even more frustrating to someone like me is, Donald Trump is Donald Trump, but people of good mind should not be allowing that to happen within the Republican Party.
Do you think that the reason that the only Republicans who are taking on Trump are the ones who are not running for re-election is because everybody else is afraid of him?
I think a big part of it is they're afraid of, quite honestly, their own electorate, their base, because of the Tea Party and some of these low turnout primaries. They can bring out a lot of people. Steve Bannon and others are going to, try to get them all out to vote, and they're just afraid of their own constituents, which is just really sad. I mean, I think if people had a spine, you'll find the public would much rather have a Republican with a spine than someone who doesn't.
Yeah, amen. Or a Democrat.